In our book, The Home of the Brave, Confronting and Conquering Challenging Times, we use a metaphor early in the book to talk about how important it is to reach back into history and to try to understand the lessons of those who have lived through difficulties and what they learned that we could benefit from. The metaphor we use to teach this principle is based on an experience I had multiple times about 15-20 years ago in my life. We lived in a place where my route to work took me past a field, and in the field was a single large oak tree surrounded by crops as far as the eye could see. On the leeward side, that is the side not directly in the wind and the weather, was growing a very small sapling. Now, what I found interesting about this oak tree and the small sapling is that I don't know a lot about trees. I'm not an arborist. I don't know a lot about oak trees specifically, but I do know this. They drop more than one seed in a season, and so you would expect to see probably more than one sapling growing near this one mother oak tree. And yet there was the one sapling. And as I said earlier, it was on the leeward side, the side that was protected from the wind and the weather. And I began to think a lot about what I was looking at, and metaphorically trying to understand what lesson I might learn from that observation. Now, the old oak tree was a large tree. It had obviously lived for many, many years and suffered many, many winters and many, many storms. Its roots were obviously substantial and deep. Its trunk was thick and solid. It had branched out as far as it could to draw in as much sunlight as it could possibly reach in the sky. And so it was established and safe and solid and secure. Now that little sapling, which had fallen on the leeward side of the tree out of the weather, survived, I believe, because it chose to stand in the shadow of the large, established, experienced mother oak. In life, how many times are we tempted to run away from the past, to run away from our forebears, to run away from our parents and say, I'll find my own place in the field. I will make my own mark on this world, and I'll do it in my way, based on my understanding and my conditions. In doing that, we move out into the field and away from the shelter of the mighty oak. We expose ourselves fully to the elements, including the wind and the storms and the rains and the snow, which, because we are like the little sapling, very small and still not yet big enough and rooted enough to tolerate some of this attack, we place ourselves in a position where when the rains come and the storms come, they beat on us so severely that they do real and lasting damage. The foundational message of Home of the Brave is simply this: if we are wise, we will resist the impulse to immediately run to our own corner of the field of life. We will take our time and take full advantage of the shelter, the experience, the wisdom, and the knowledge that comes from staying close to those oaks, those great people who established the country, who fought the fights, who conquered and overcame difficulties in many ways far greater than we deal with today. And by staying in their shelter, we will give ourselves time to learn their lessons, hear their messages, experience their wisdom, and build strength in ourselves. And then the time will come, and it's perfectly appropriate, when we've got enough roots and enough strength that we can establish our own place in the world and make the differences that we all desire to make. The lesson of the lone sapling is simply this: if we are wise, we will stay close to those people, those principles, and those core values that made this country great, and that will continue to make it great if we will simply follow the example of those who have gone before us.